That's heavenly music for sure. Absolutely beautiful. So, I'm going to start by telling you a story about a monk. A monk was sitting in his little abode, staring out the window, admiring the beautiful moon, when a thief burst through the door and said, "Give me all you have." And the monk said, "Well, all I have is this robe, but I have this beautiful moon. Give me all you have." And the monk said, "Well, I just have this robe." But he took off the robe and he gave it to the thief. The thief looked around to see if there's anything else he could take, and then he darted out the door. And so the monk was standing there naked. And he sat back down in his chair and he said, "What a pity I couldn't give him my moon. What a pity I couldn't give him my moon." So I'm here to say, God wants to give us the moon, wants to give us the moon, which is to say, wherever we are, the Spirit of God is. Do you know, I looked up the word joy because years ago when I first started speaking, I thought, it's helpful to check Webster to see what my old friend Webster says, because oftentimes there were nuggets in there. So I looked up joy, and Webster says, well, it's a state of happiness and delight. That didn't quite do it for me. I thought, nah. So I looked up to see what our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, said. And Charles Fillmore said, it is the happiness of God expressing through us. And I thought, well, that's a little better, but it doesn't quite do it for me. Because joy is so much more than just happiness. One of my favorite scriptures is the joy of the Lord, and metaphysically we're talking about spiritual law, will be my strength. It is my strength. So in the past, when I have done memorial services for my dear relatives, both my parents, my aunt, and so on and so forth, it was a joyous occasion. And we say celebration of life, even though there is a lot of sadness. But that is the strength that gets us through the experience of releasing and embracing life wherever we are. I learned a long time ago also that my inner child is the source of my joy. That part of me that is spontaneous and carefree and can dance through the day and half the night sometimes. Joy. And Jesus, who is our way shower, and that's a term I said back in Virginia. I said, Jesus is our way shower. And this woman came up to me and she said, what's a way shower? And I said, shower. The person who shows us how to stop creating selfless induced unnecessary suffering, which is Charles Fillmore's definition of sin. How to stop it, and how to embrace life. How to embrace life as intended by the divine intelligence, which is everywhere present. So my definition of joy, and that's always the best one, yours, right? Your own definition is always the best one for you. My definition of joy is love shared. It is love shared. And it's also about living the life of good that is your vision, the expectation of a good life. What does that look like? What does that look like? Now, one of the most important spiritual tools we have is the power of imagination and visualization. These things create our reality. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind as one of our tenets, one of our core beliefs. And it's supported by quantum physics. So, we have the power right now to be joyful, regardless of what is happening. So I'm using my imagination to visualize the outcome that I want to have. We are joyful when we're doing what we love to do. We are joyful when we're in the presence of people who share our values and who are positive. A shoulder when you need it. They are there for you. We are joyful when everything is lining up and smelling like roses. But what if it isn't? Can you still be joyful? Yes. And the core of that is gratitude. Gratitude for what has been, gratitude for this moment, and gratitude for what will be, knowing that we have everything we need to meet the demands of this day. So Christmas is all about this awareness, awakening to this awareness. But you know, Jesus said, unless you become like little children, you're never going to enter this state of consciousness. So I remember when I was a kid, I didn't worry about myself that much. I just made mud pies and did all the things kids do and was happy. But then that changes. What changes first probably is puberty. You know, all those crazy chemicals get dumped in our bodies and everything goes haywire. And then there's our impacting our body, all kinds of things. Let's see, what did I say about that? Toxins in the environment, think allergies, bombard our body. And then as we get older, how about all those stimulants and depressants and everything else we do to self-medicate? And so our whole body gets out of balance. And then let's talk about our emotions. You know, the longer we live, the more experiences we have. You ever thought about that? The more there is to process on an emotional level. Our disappointments, our failures, our losses. Next thing you know, if we don't know how to process this, how to honor our feelings, and how to learn from them and release them, they build up and build up and build up. And next thing you know, we're living an emotional life of anxiety and depression. And that gets projected into the future. Whoo! A lot to be joyful about there, huh? Yeah? And then the third thing is mental imbalance. All that social conditioning. You're a good little girl. You're a bad little girl. You do this or do that. All of the beliefs that we pick up, as my friend used to say, from the dumping ground of others. We pick it up and claim it for ourselves, and then we have a mental imbalance. If we want to cultivate joy in our lives, we have to work on all three of those: the physical, the mental, and the emotional self. And then we get down into the real minutia. Study, study, study. Study, study, study. How can I be more happy? How many books have been written on self-help? All we really need to do is be still. Visualize the life we want to have. feel it in our emotional body, affirm it in our mental body. And do it more than once, because if we're down here, we can't just go, joy, 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 and feel joy. We can't do it. It takes affirming it and allowing ourselves to really feel it. And I tell you, Christmas is the time for joy. It is the time for joy. It's more than all of that outer trappings out there. It is the birth of the awareness of what's going on within. And it's never too late. I don't care if you're 103. It's never too late to affirm your joy. And nothing on the outer, no circumstance, can take it away, can rob you from your moon. So I'll tell you another little story. There was once a man who was going to the marketplace, and he wanted to buy a new pair of shoes. So he traced his foot, and he measured depth and length and all of that so he could get the perfect pair of shoes. So he gets all the way to the marketplace and realized he left his paper at home. And he panicked. Oh no! So he runs back home, which was a good distance. And he got his paper. And then when he gets back to the marketplace, the stores are all closed. So he's pounding on the door, and this merchant opens the door, and he said, I want to buy a pair of shoes, but I left my measurements at home, and I had to go back and get them. And I'm sorry, I'm too late. And the man looked at him and laughed and said, well, you had your feet with you, didn't you? Why do we think we need anything other than what is naturally ours? The joy of the Lord is your strength. The joy of spiritual law, because that's infallible. Use your spiritual knowledge to create the life that you want. And nothing can rob you of that. Stand naked before the moon and howl. That's really quite fun. And know that your joy comes from within. Because God is not happy or unhappy. And that's why I don't like those definitions. God is not happy or unhappy. God is all that is beautiful, all that is bright, all that is true, all that you need for your strength. And I think I'm done, but we'll see. Thank you.